So I wanted to start this video off by asking everyone a question. What does it mean to live? I believe the answer is a choice. The principle that I want to go into and talk about is this idea of absurdity, which is the philosophy based on the belief that the universe is irrational, meaningless, and that the search for order brings the individual into conflict with the universe. The absurd asks a question between life and death. So, under what circumstances does that make life not worth living? Choice. I believe the answer to this question is choice. The choices that my story are filled with are based off of expectations. Starting my story off, I grew up in the foster care system since the age of 7. Now, if you can imagine, this has already set up my story feeling like I was different from everyone else. And it didn't help that the adults in my life were poking and prodding. I went to so many psychologists and different people to try and figure out what in my mind was what was wrong with Ryan. I wasn't able to live within these expectations that everyone seemed to put on me. One example is when I was younger, I still remember my foster parents being really upset. And this was near the end of my time with them. And they told me about a photo they were shown. And it's a photo of me on rollerblades with my arms in the air. They were given this photo by social services to be like, here's this kid that we would like to place in your home. I wasn't that kid. Instead, I was the kid playing in the basement with my Connects and my Lego. My foster parents didn't seem to like that. You know, I wasn't athletic. I wasn't making friends. I wasn't any of this list arbitrary that I didn't know, but I seemingly couldn't live up to. I wasn't any of those things. And so as I grew up, I started to question my existence because it didn't feel like this world wanted me to be a part of it. I still remember walking up the hill to school with my foster brother and asking the question when I was a teenager, what is the point of life? What is the point of any of this? What is like, all we're going to do is go to school and then we're going to go to work and then we're going to die. Like, why would we do that? Looking back, and even then, I believe my young heart understood that there were these expectations and this world didn't want me to be a part of it. And I couldn't be what people wanted me to be. Eventually, I went through a period of time where it was 3 years of just depression. I just, at some point, just shut down in the same way that I did as a teen, but this time it was really bad. Now, thankfully, my wife stood by me in this time, and a lot of other people did too, and I discovered that I'm loved and I like who I am. As I went through this time, it was like I suddenly gained the ability to be self-aware. And it's not like I wasn't self-aware before. But you have to understand, growing up in the way that I did, I didn't know how to trust my own thoughts and feelings. And so this was a new experience where it's like, I'm starting to recognize patterns and things that are happening that are causing problems. And so I started to look into it. Growing up, I knew that, I was different. I knew I had ADHD. I knew my struggles, but this was different. And I began to seek a diagnosis, and as I did, I got that diagnosis, and it turns out that I'm autistic. The journey of being on the other side of this diagnosis has been one of the most interesting things, because suddenly it was like my life made sense. My story made sense. I wasn't a burden. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't any of these things I thought about myself. There's a lot of grief on this, on the other side of this journey, because it's like, what could have my life been like if I'd known? But there's also great joy because I do know now. And it's taken me a while to get to the place where I want to share this openly, because it has been so vulnerable. There's so many things that I want to talk about being autistic. I don't have time to do so in this video, and it's not the purpose, but I will share a few things. So, and I only speak on behalf of myself in my journey, in my story. I cannot represent a greater whole, just me, right? That's all I can speak to. Like I said, being autistic means that I see and view and operate and feel and sense and think differently than neurotypicals. And what a neurotypical is it's not derogatory. It just means that there is a typical way of developing, and that's the neurotypical. And then there's the atypical way of developing, which is neurodiverse, neurodivergent. One of the things that I get to teach in my job now, actually, is that we understand autism as a spectrum. And when people think about that, they usually think about a line from like here to here, and usually they try and place you like, where are you on this line? You know, more autistic, less autistic. It's more like a pie chart, and different aspects of the pie are filled out for different individuals. So in my job, when I go to places and talk about it, we like to say that if you know one autistic individual, you only know one autistic individual. Being autistic has left me feeling like an alien, like I don't belong, because I'm not really able to be me. I have to be normal. I have to be neurotypical, which is actually a term that is used in the autistic community called masking or camouflage. And it refers to people on the autistic spectrum hiding or suppressing their natural behaviors, tendencies, or preferences in order to fit in with social norms or expectations. In essence, it's a coping mechanism used to navigate a world that may be overwhelming or confusing to individuals on the autism spectrum. While masking may help autistic individuals navigate social situations and appear more typical, it is emotionally exhausting, or emotionally and mentally exhausting, and can lead to a sense of disconnection from one's true self and contribute to anxiety, depression, and burnout. So a quick example I love to give to people is I really struggle with eye contact. So if you're a neurotypical individual, you are expecting communication in a certain way, and there's culture and there's a lot of other aspects. But in North American society, eye contact means that you're paying attention, that you're interested in what the person is saying. You're not lying or being shifty. But for myself, when I do eye contact, it's actually like, the way that I can explain it is like when you're driving somewhere and the radio is on and you're trying to follow little directions, you're going to turn down the dial. I don't need eye contact to know if someone's paying attention or listening to me. And in fact, it's overwhelming the amount of information. On top of that, I have to then think about like how I'm interacting. So if I'm trying to mask in those situations, I might try and give more eye contact. But what that means then is I'm thinking about giving eye contact. Did I look enough? Did I blink enough? And then there are other things that I do as well. Like, is my tone of voice okay? Is there enough inflections? Do I have enough emotion or expression on my face? Because I have a flat effect. A lot of this stuff, unfortunately, is an obligation rather than a choice for most individuals. It's motivated by a sense that, you know, if you don't do it, you're alienated. It's a threat. It's an avoidance of social ostracization or attacks even. This mask has a cost. It is physically, mentally, soulfully exhausting to live not in line with who you've been made to be. And it's why I actually burnt out and was depressed. Getting this diagnosis of being autistic didn't make me autistic. I didn't magically suddenly get to a different side of things and suddenly I'm autistic. It's been with me since birth. It'll be with me until I die. It's like my ADHD or my height. When I was pursuing getting a diagnosis, a lot of the things that I encountered from people were, well, why are you wanting to get a diagnosis? You're looking to justify the way that you are so you don't have to do things, or this is a lot of the language I've experienced growing up in my life. You're lazy, you don't want to do it. Another autistic community member explains it like you're going hiking, and if you went hiking, if you're a good hiker, you have good shoes, you've got a backpack, you've got water on you, you may have some snacks or sunscreen or bug spray or whatever. That doesn't take away from the challenge of whatever hike you're doing. It just makes it so that you might have a better chance to thrive or be successful versus you going in, you know, skater shoes and cargo pants or whatever. In the same way that you can thrive when you're hiking, if you have the right equipment, if I build the right structures and routine and way of going about things, I can actually thrive. Unfortunately, this difference even causes problems for people, but I'm learning to embrace that difference now. In the Bible, in the book of Mark, Jesus is talking to his disciples and a group of people, and he says this, and I'm going to quote it from the Message version of the Bible. What good would it do to get everything you want and lose you, the real you? What could you ever trade your soul for? Going forward, I'm going to choose to embrace me, all of me, my autistic self, my quirky self, all of its challenges and unique strengths. I'm not going to change who I am for anyone if it's not in line with my values. And it's not to say I don't want, again, it's not to say I don't want to change or grow. I always do and always will. But I'm not going to lose myself in doing that anymore. I'm autistic. And I realized that in sharing that, I mean, some people are like, why would you share that in a public way? Well, for one thing, there's nothing wrong with being autistic. You know, I know that I'm painting a target on my back. I know that I'm risking changing people's cognition of me, which, I mean, has already happened, and I've already lost significantly because of that. This leads me to a choice. And I want to quote 𝘿𝙍𝑃𝑎𝑐𝑎𝑠, who is a lot of where this line of thinking comes from. Thus I draw from the absurd 3 consequences, which are my revolt, my freedom, and my passion. By the mere activity of my consciousness, I transform into a rule of life what was an invitation to death, and I refuse suicide. The absurd has asked me, Ryan, questions my entire life. Some of them are, why choose to live a life where in doing so, it seems to cause people to constantly misunderstand you, to hurt them, to leave you feeling like you're a burden. You've said that you feel like a walking apology, that people can't see or understand reality as you do. They will never see your sincerity, or your heart, or you. Why would you ever choose to live like that? At the start of this video, I asked a question. What does it mean to live? And subsequently, under what circumstances is life not worth living? I used to think that me living out of who I was made to be made life not worth living. Those were the circumstances in which that would be the case. It has taken me to the very brink. And now I'm in a place where I feel the opposite. Life isn't worth living if I'm not able to live in line with who I've been made to be. If life is absurd and is truly meaningless, doesn't that mean that everything we do is actually that much more meaningful? You are the only you that will ever exist. And I believe, and I know, that there are amazing and unique things that you alone can bring to this world. Don't let anyone decide your life for you. I invite you to join me in this rebellion of this world of indifference, to be who you are, and to support those who risk everything in doing so, to deny this self-death for the sake of others. May we all choose to transform into a rule of life what was going to be an invitation to death. 𝘿𝙍𝙼𝙒 says this: "In the midst of winter, I found within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better pushing right back. I choose life. I refuse to die, because I see a world where one day we catch up, and I might not live under the shade of that tree, but I can be part of the one who fights for it and protects it. And you can be a part of that too. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to get this right. I'm just learning about this now at the age of 33. This is my spirit of rebellion. May it never be corrupted. This is who I choose to be. To be an advocate. To create rivers in a desert. I'm going to do it unashamedly me. Because this is what I choose. This is my choice. Because it all comes down to choice. And so with that, I leave you with the question, what do you choose? Thank you.
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why? Why do you do it? Why? Why get up? Why keep fighting? You believe you're fighting for something, for more than your survival? Can you tell me what it is? Do you even know? Is it freedom or truth? Perhaps peace? Could it be for love? Illusions, Mr. Anderson, vagaries of perception. Temporary constructs of a feeble human intellect trying desperately to justify an existence that is without meaning or purpose. And all of them as artificial as the Matrix itself. Although only a human mind could invent something as insipid as love. You must be able to see it, Mr. Anderson. You must know it by now. You can't win. It's pointless to keep fighting. Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you persist?
Because I choose to.